There's only one cycle that we can call a cycle, or he called a cycle, and that's the Kindertotenlieder, where he says these songs must be performed in this order, in these keys, and always as 5 songs and never one out. That's not true with Fahrenden Gesellen. That's certainly not true with the Deskerame Wohnhorn is not a cycle. It is a collection on a single source, and you can put those in any juxtaposition you want. That was not his interest. They are certain specific moments. What's interesting is his pretty consistent use of the English horn and the oboe as the human element in the story narration. Pretty consistent use of the horns as fateful motifs, the world around that is the nature motif, which is a very significant point because we get terribly sympathetic with natural phenomenon, and when we talk about German romantic, especially 19th century poetry, we get into such amazing, convoluted personal relationships to nature, and sometimes we forget the fact that nature doesn't care. Nature is ambivalent to the human condition. That's what the tragedy is of our relationship to nature and our relationship of understanding our personal emotions in natural phenomenon. And there's a certain objectivity that is always in the natural elements. And it's very significant to me, and I've had to think about this, and I've sort of arrived at this conclusion today anyway, that when Mahler writes things like nicht sentimental, not sentimental, over some of the most obviously sentimental music I've ever heard in my life, you ask, well, what is it you're after? And I think it's this objectivity, that the tragedy is self-understood. It's the German Wehmut, this pain, this courage of pain. This Wehmut is best described, the word, probably with smiling through tears. And I think that's very, very often misunderstood in Mahler's more melancholy music. Mahler's supposed preoccupation with death. I actually see it as a preoccupation with life. I think he was very, very preoccupied with being alive and knowing you're on a path. And where this path ultimately ends, or what part of that path has to do with your physical body versus your emotional energy, or the vibrations that you become, or the light that you go into, or whatever that Entleichungsprozess is, the sloughing off of the physical body that he believes so much in with Goethe and Fechner and Lupino. These are very fascinating subjects that tumble one into the other, and through his songs, you hear certain iconographic uses of instruments. The harp, most often arpeggiations from below, above, a duplet rhythm over a triplet, or a triplet rhythm over a duplet structure. This is usually Jenseits. This is usually a release into another consciousness or a transcendence into another reality. Even the vegan lieds that always show you on bum 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 ba da dee da 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 dee dee. They're not so much cajoling as they're lifting and releasing a transport. So I think that it's a different kind of dialogue, and the challenge really is to get the orchestra to be in that thought process. For me, it's a pleasure, but it's always behooves me to turn around at some point to the orchestra and say, look, this isn't just musical elements. We're really telling a story here, and as long as you believe that's what that is, then we don't need to talk about it anymore. And of course, with a conductor like Christoph Eschenbach, which I've done an awful lot of Mahler performances with, this is exactly the kind of Mahler conductor that one needs. This is exactly the kind of ability to understand musical structure, orchestral structure, and believe in the music